Welcome to this week's episode of Trista's Plate Story podcast. I'm Trista Polo from iwokeupawesome.com, and I am your host. Each week we learn the story behind that vanity plate. You know, the one you saw driving down the road? What did it say? What did it mean? Why did they choose it? Welcome. I'm super excited. Today I have the owner of the license plate Breakaway. It's Sonia Hall from Maine. Welcome, Sonia.
Hi.
Hi, it's great to have you.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
So tell me the story. Why did you choose that plate?
So I have a black bear plate, which is for University of Maine, and it's hockey themed. So it's BRK AWY, and that is a hockey term. It's a play in hockey. And my family were huge Maine hockey fans, and a couple of us actually have hockey-related black bear plates. So that was just the one that I wanted.
I love it. Now, was that your first choice, or did you have to go through a few iterations?
I did. I had to go through a couple different choices. With the black bear plates, you only get 6 letters or numbers. So it was a little tricky. I wanted either power play or penalty box, but they were both taken. I couldn't get it to work with 6 letters, but I do love breakaways. So it definitely wasn't, I wasn't settling at all.
Now, I'm going to admit I do not follow hockey, so you get to give me some of your hockey passion and some education around it. What is breakaway? What does that term mean?
Sure. So a breakaway is basically you have, the offense and the defense on the ice, the two sides, the two teams. And a breakaway is when the defense of the other team is behind a player and the player with the puck is in all alone against the goaltender. So basically, he's gotten past the defense, or she has gotten past the defense, and they have a wide open net with the goalie, and they have more potential to score. There's no one that can block shots or kind of get in their way in front of the net. So
that sounds like an optimal place to be on the court.
Yeah. And it's very exciting, like the defense is really good and they're hard to get around. So when the puck goes around and they get in all alone, it's very exciting. And, it's just a great way to score.
Yeah. Now, what is the likelihood that they'll score once they get to that spot? Because they still have to deal with the goalie, right?
Right. Yeah. And it depends. It depends on kind of where the ice they are when they get the breakaway. If they're like at center ice and they have a lot of momentum going into it, they have more of a chance because things are happening more quickly. If it's kind of like a half, ice breakaway, then maybe they don't have as much time to set it up or think about it. But I mean, it all depends on the skill of the player and then the skill of the goalie. So, it kind of depends.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, hockey is known for the fights on the ice. What do you like better? The game itself, the fights, the strategy? Like, what do you love about the game?
So when I first started going to hockey games, I went to ECHL hockey games, which is like minor league hockey. And there's always fights going on, like more than the NHL. But that was also a long time ago too, like 20 years or so. And now the game has kind of moved away from fighting and more towards skill. So the fights still happen, but it's more strategy. So they'll fight now if they're behind and they want to like rile up the team, or if, sometimes it's a vendetta thing. Like if you go after somebody's captain, you might get fought by the tough guy on the team or something. But it's always exciting. But in college hockey, they're actually not allowed to fight. So when we go to Maine games, it's pretty rare to see anybody, punching or fighting. They get kicked out of the game. So I really enjoy the atmosphere, I think, at the arena.
And you go as a family, right? Your whole family's into it.
We do, yeah. Mostly my sister and I have season tickets together. And then my aunt and uncle also have season tickets. And we'll go with them from time to time. But a lot of times we bring my almost 85-year-old grandmother, and she gets such a kick out of it. She loves it too. So it's a family affair and we really like going. My dad does as well. When he comes to visit us, we'll take him to games, and he's been going there since, the early 90s. So.
Yeah, I'm not a huge sports person, but I have to say once in a while we get tickets to the regional baseball team that's in our area. They're called the Renegades. And it's super fun because, like you said, it's the atmosphere. The game itself, like baseball, is a pretty slow moving game. But the atmosphere, because it's a regional team, they do a lot for kids. They have games. The announcer's really great. And just being there it's like a fun way to hang out with my husband. So I love that appeal of it, even though I'm not a huge follower of the team or the sport. So I could see what
Yeah,
you mean
I would
about the atmosphere.
yeah, I would totally agree with that. Like where Maine plays, it's called Alfond Arena, and it's a very small arena. It's probably one of the smaller ones in all of college hockey. But like the student section kind of like sits on top of the opposing goalie, and we have chants and songs, and the band is really good. And like they've been voted like #1 atmosphere in college hockey multiple times. And it's just fun. I love going.
That's awesome. I love that. And I love that you bring your grandmother. You said she's 85?
Yeah, she gets a really big kick out of going. She's gotten pictures with the mascot bananas, and she will, eat the arena food. And we've even taken her, we go on the road sometimes to see Maine play. And we've taken her on road trips with us, and she has a lot of fun with it.
That's really great.
It's not how old you are, but how old you feel. So just gotta like keep living life, and age is just a number.
You're absolutely right. I remember my mom had a lot of trouble with 60 because she sort of had it like she was old at 60. But I said just exactly what you're telling me. You're only as old as you feel.
My dad turned 60 last year, and his girlfriend took him to Disney World. So I was getting all of these text messages of pictures of him on rides, and he went to breakfast with Mickey, and Winnie the Pooh was there, and he just had a really good time. And I don't even think he second guessed it at all, turning 60. So
talk about finding your inner child. How perfect is that? That's a great idea.
That is definitely my dad. He finds joy and fun in any situation. I try to be just like him, actually.
I try and be just like him too. I tend to get a little serious. I have a corporate background, so things have to be done a certain way, and I really fight against that because that's how I'm, trained professionally, but I always do prefer to have the fun in things for sure.
I'm the same way too.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you are more than a hockey fan. You have lots of other interests and skills and passions. So tell me about yourself. What do you do professionally?
So professionally, I'm a physical therapist assistant. I work locally at a kind of busy outpatient clinic, and I've been doing that for probably just over 6 years. So, and I really like it.
How did you get started in that profession? That's a very specialized thing to do for a living.
So I went to college right after high school, and I actually took 3 years to do it instead of the recommended 2, just to kind of ease into it. But it wasn't really anything that was on my radar for a long time. And then one day I was watching TV. It sounds really cliche, but I was watching soldiers that had injuries, and they were working with physical therapists, like in the parallel bars, very quintessential PT, like learning how to walk again and manage prosthetics and things like that. And I was like, who does that? Is that a doctor? Like, how can I get into that? And that's kind of when I found physical therapy and to be a physical therapist assistant.
I think that's great. I actually have always, every physical therapist I've ever met, I really liked. I like their personality. They're really grounded. They're fit. They understand the body, but they didn't have to go all the way through the whole medical school thing. It's the profession I have always sort of regretted I didn't know about when I was choosing my path, because I think if I had known about it, I might have actually pursued it as a profession. So, and you definitely fall in line with the whole physical therapy vibe. Like you're a nice person, you're really grounded, you're centered, you're easy to talk to. That's how all the physical therapy people that I know are.
Thank you so much. That's really nice. Yeah, I found that as well too. And I see it as like we're your healthcare professional, but when you go into a doctor, you're there, and doctors are great, nurses are great, but you're there like when you're sick, they don't get to see you through that whole, process of getting better. It's a long game, so we have to make people feel really comfortable because they see us for 2-3 times a week for, 6, 12, 18 weeks. And so, I really enjoy like getting to know people. I mean, most of my patients, the older ones, they're like adopted grandparents at the time that I leave them, and it's really great just to connect with people. And I meet so many cool people, all the way from I've worked with pediatric patients to, middle-aged patients and older patients. Like everyone just always has a really cool story and a reason why they're there. And I just really enjoy it.
And you're absolutely right. You get to be part of the whole entire process, not just the beginning or the end. You're part of the transformation of the physical health. That's great.
Yeah, definitely. And a big something that I take a lot of pride in, especially in my area, in central Maine, is just being part of like fighting the opioid crisis, because there's so many patients who, not unwillingly, but unknowingly kind of fall into habits of like taking pain medication, and they're not given the steps to kind of, get past that, or, how to take them or how to come off of them. And so that's kind of a big part that I take pride in, because we can help them manage their pain with less medication, or to help get them off that medication and just, return to function. And so, like I said, especially in this area, I think that's really important.
Yeah, I super agree. I am on the board of an organization called the Matt Herring Foundation. It's all about taking the stigma away from addiction, because I think once a person becomes addicted, they get shunned, judged by the community, their family oftentimes, and that makes it a lot harder to overcome for sure. So I love that you're part of that conversation as well. It's super important. I understand from the pandemic, it's even gotten worse than it was, and it was not good to begin with.
Yeah, I can definitely see how that would happen. Like I said, especially in my area, it's kind of a higher population for drugs and addiction. So, I've definitely noticed people coming in. I think they enjoy coming into PT because it's kind of a social setting in a lot of ways. So a lot of people, get out and they get to socialize. And I know some people like see friends of theirs because it's such a small community, and they're like, oh, I haven't seen you in, however long. So it's definitely, I just really enjoy physical therapy, and I'm glad for so many opportunities and so many things that it's opened me up to.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I want to talk about your passions, because I know you have some passions and you share them on your Instagram. So, where do you want to start?
I don't know. We can talk about my passion for makeup and fashion and lifestyle.
Yay! Let's do it. How
Yeah.
did you get excited? And because I mean, I wear makeup. I knew you'd be on point today. So I went a little further than I usually do. I will say, for the pandemic, I never wore a lot of makeup anyway, but with the pandemic, it definitely went down. But I'm like, oh, see, she's into makeup, so I'm gonna mascara, lipstick. So this is me made up. I did it for you.
I love it. I need to know that lip color too, because I really like it.
Oh, it's one of my favorites. It's called Wine Not.
Ooh, I
And then I
like it.
have a lip liner underneath. I'll send you the colors. But yeah, so how did you get started in these? How did this become a passion and not just something you do because you're going to work or to the clubs?
Sure. So a couple of years ago, probably like 5 years ago or so, I really got into makeup. I've kind of always been, especially like in high school too, but I got into like how to apply it properly, watching a lot of YouTube videos. And I had a friend of mine that was also into, and probably spent way more money than I should as a young adult on makeup. But it was about 4 years ago, I was approached by a family member to do a wedding makeup, session. My cousin, he had a friend getting married, and he was like, she doesn't have a makeup artist. It's really last minute. Is there any way that you can do her makeup and a couple of her bridesmaids? And I was like, I've never done anybody's makeup in my whole life. I don't know if I can. And I did it. And I think I ended up doing like 5 or 6 people that day. And it went really, really well. So I've kind of been doing that here and there ever since.
That's really cool. I think YouTube created a lot of excitement and passion for makeup, because you actually didn't have to go to cosmetology school to learn the smoky eye and how to do
Mhm.
eyeliner, how to do a lip line properly, the do's and don'ts. So I think that gave makeup access
Yeah.
to a lot of more people.
I definitely think so too. Like in high school, I really liked makeup, and I actually ended up doing a friend of mine from high school. I graduated with her and I did her makeup for her sister's wedding. And she was like, I'm not surprised that you're doing this at all. She's like, you always looked so good in high school. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't think I did it all. But, it's just like, those opportunities that you have once you kind of learn about it and just practice. That's what it is, really.
Yeah, I have this thing, like I'll watch the videos because I think it's fascinating to watch the transformation. And then I'll try it. And I feel like here's the problem I always have. Getting the eyeshadow to look blended with other things, I feel like I either have way too little or way too much. I can never quite get the balance, So I don't know. I'm a little well, I'm definitely amateur when it comes to it. And I probably don't have the dedication of time and practicing that would make me amazing at it. But that's one place that I have not figured out. Maybe I have the wrong brushes. I don't know.
Definitely. And I would totally agree with that. Like, it's hard. And it's art. So how like Van Gogh wouldn't have painted with like Walmart 97-cent little acrylic paintbrushes. So that's where I would go with the blending, is sometimes you have to find brushes that are a little bit better quality and just like what you're doing for the job. So if you take a really big fluffy brush and you try to use it on your lid, that's going to be too big for the surface that you're trying to get to. So that's my biggest thing, is just having the right brushes, and they don't have to be really expensive, but just making sure that you use the right brush and when, and that it's of good enough quality. But
I think that's
the shadow can depend too. If your shadows aren't easy to blend, that can make it hard too.
Yeah, I think the same goes for painting a room, right? You don't use a regular brush for painting the edges. So I think you're right. The right brush for the job is super important. I did just get some new brushes and I thought, if I'm going to say that I'm not good at it, I better at least have the right brushes before I decide for sure that blending eyeshadows will never be me. So do you still do it for other people? Do you have clients, or mostly just for yourself?
I do it for myself, but I don't market myself that much. It's usually just kind of friends that will reach out, or friends of friends that are like, hey, I need you. And I'll usually end up doing like maybe 3 or 4 jobs a year. My weekends are kind of sacred to me, so I don't like to do it all the time. But I kind of look at it as like a fun challenge. Like, it makes me kind of nervous, and so I go in and then I do it, and it all turns out really well. And I really enjoy it.
That's how I feel about podcasts. I have a podcast. It's something I enjoy doing, but being a guest on other people's podcasts, I always have this performance anxiety right before we're ready to start. Am I going to know what to say? Like an imposter syndrome kind of thing. Do I really add any value? What are they going to ask me? What am I going to talk about? I hope that this turns out to be a good final. So I know what you mean. I know what you mean. It's fun. You enjoy doing it. It's a passion, but it can be a little daunting as well.
Yeah. And you know what? I feel like it's a good kind of stress, because sometimes with my job and things like that, I have a lot of patients, or really complicated patients, or it's really busy and I get kind of stressed, and it's not the best kind of stress, you work through it. But like these opportunities, you get to pick and choose when you want to do it. And it's always in a really fun environment, and you love the people that you work on. And yeah, I really enjoy it. And I like putting myself to the test, because I'm always like, am I good enough? And then all the girls are just like over the moon happy with how they look. And it makes it really easy when they sit down and they're like, I don't care what you do, just make me look good. And you're like, like, if somebody wants a specific look, then you're kind of a little bit more stressed. But mostly everybody I've worked with is like, no, just do whatever.
Just do whatever you want. I actually ended up doing my sister's makeup for her wedding. This was 10 years ago now.
Oh, wow.
But my mother was very involved in the planning, and they were planning it together. And she asked me if I would do her makeup because she liked how I did mine. I was definitely wearing it more and more consistently back then. But I was like, okay, I mean, I can do what I do to myself if that's what you're looking for.
That's exactly how I felt when I did my first job. I was like, I mean, I can try. And I ended up having like a mature woman as well. And I had never, I mean, obviously I'm younger, so I had no idea, but I kind of like took tips and tricks that I had learned on YouTube and it turned out great. So,
Yeah, I thought she looked great. I think she looked perfect. It wasn't over the top for the wedding, but it was done and it was beautiful for her photos. She had, I think it enhanced her beauty. It didn't take away or make it about the makeup.
right.
And I'll tell you the other cool thing, it was really fun to be able to do that for her on her wedding day, you know?
Hmm.
So that's a memory I cherish as well.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I was able to do my best friend's makeup for her baby shower. And I just loved that. I loved having that memory. And, I had helped kind of set it up. And then I left to do her makeup. And, and actually her baby was born that same afternoon. So it was kind of like our last memory together, like before Grayson was born. And so, like,
Oh my goodness.
yeah, I really loved that memory.
Wow. Now you're into fashion too, right? You do some posts about fashion. So tell us about that.
I do. So I'm definitely not like super out there with fashion yet. It's kind of a newer hobby for myself, but it's something that I've kind of been into for a few years and just trying to put looks together that are really simple and that you don't really have to think about or like have a lot of really extravagant pieces for, just kind of like the basics, but dressing them up a little bit.
I always say I'm terrible at fashion. I remember in my childhood, the Garanimals. I think they're still around, where you want the child to be able to dress him or herself. And so, as long as the animals match, the child knows that they are a good outfit. So, put a lion shirt with a lion pant, you're good to go. So, I have always said I wish that they had Garanimal for adults. I
I would
don't know
agree
why
with that.
somebody has not come up with this idea. It's probably going to be the next home-based business that comes out, and they should give me a cut because it'll be a really good idea and everyone will want it just like me. I actually had somebody come in and do a closet consult. So what she did is she went through everything I owned. She had me try on a lot of stuff. She had me decide like what I could put together, things I never would have matched. She had me donate a lot of stuff. We negotiated several pieces that I thought I should keep and she didn't. I won some, she won some, but it made it like more accessible to know that my closet had some great pieces, some great outfits, some great combinations that kind of revitalized my wardrobe. And I didn't really have to buy very much to use what
Definitely.
I had. It was very cool.
Yeah. And that's kind of what it's all about for me.
You know, we've touched on this whole concept of self-worth a few times. It's kind of come up underneath. Tell me a little bit about your journey with your own self-worth.
Sure. I've kind of always thought that self-worth had something to do with like the way that you looked, but I think it's more the way that you feel, which can definitely come from how you look. But I think it has to do with just a healthy respect for who you are and just knowing that if you're not kind of in a place where you want to be with your weight or your size or your bulk or that you're okay with everything else about you. Like you're really creative or you're very professional or you're very intelligent or you have other pursuits that you can kind of look into versus just like the way that you look, because that's so not it.
I love what you're saying about respecting yourself. I think that is a very important pillar in self-worth because if you can just respect yourself, what you've been through, what challenges you've overcome, what you know, what you've learned, your gifts, your talents, your creativity, whatever it is, I think that that is a huge piece to self-worth. So I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I went through a period of my life about 4 or 5 years ago where I was in a very dark place mentally. And it took a lot to kind of get out of that. And there was probably, I felt like 2 or 3 years of my life that I kind of lost because I was just like a roller coaster of emotion. And so, I find myself feeling that like I'm out of that dark spot, but I haven't forgotten. I haven't forgotten it. And I feel like for all that I went through, it was what I needed to do to become the woman that I really love and appreciate. And I think like for myself, I'm like, I would go through it all over again if I could just help one person, So I think that's really important.
I really agree with you. Every wrinkle, scar, pound, everything we have is a result of what we've been through. So if we can look at that as our tapestry as opposed to our flaws, I think that just really makes a huge difference. And you're absolutely right. We get to support and contribute to others from what we've learned from our challenges and our adversity, not from our life going everything every way we wanted it to and being easy.
I completely agree with that. And I'm definitely big on and it goes for anybody, any gender, male or female, and everything in between. But I feel like right now we just have this great opportunity for like women supporting women, because women are stronger than ever. And there is no place in my heart for competition or putting other women down for doing what they want to do. Like, if you're not hurting yourself and you're not hurting others, then I will fully support you in whatever you decide to do.
Yay, me too. My motto is I want you to win whatever winning looks like to you.
I agree. I always say like you lose nothing by lighting somebody else's candle with your own. So your flame's still going to be just as bright as theirs at the end of the day.
That is so good. I have not heard that exactly put that way. That's beautiful. That's really, really great. Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. I think that having conversations like that makes a big difference. I think it's sort of like what we were talking about before with the opioid thing, like the stigma. And one of the things that I'll say about social media that I love, I hate social media. I think it's such a time suck and it's like you have to be there. But one of the things I love about it is there's so much positivity, girl power, boss babe kind of stuff out there. And I think that's important because it's easy to forget that we are strong and we are capable and we are badass and we are awesome.
I absolutely agree. 100%.
Yeah. Now, I can't let this end without touching on the fact that you are a Jeep owner, right?
Yes, I am. I have
Part of the Jeep family. Yep. Because I've had a few Jeep women on the podcast. So I got to call you out and acknowledge you for that. How did you end up being a Jeep person?
So I had a Mazda for a really long time. It was the first car I ever bought on my own. And that was actually the picture featured on the Instagram page with my plate. It was so weird because I'd had my new Jeep for like 3 months and then that picture just showed up. I'm like, when was that taken? I don't know who posted it. But I ended up getting my Jeep last August. It was right after my birthday. So it's kind of like a birthday present to myself. And I think I just really wanted kind of something more sporty, more SUV-like. And my uncle has always really been into Jeeps, and my aunt has a Jeep just like mine, same model. And I was just like, I can't really see myself in anything but a Jeep at this point. Like none of the other SUVs really look like what I want or feel like what I want. And I've really been loving it so far. So
that's awesome. And so you have the plate now on your Jeep.
I do. Yep, I do. I have my breakaway plates and I have my little University of Maine hockey border on it. So I'm really liking it so far. And I've got to put a couple of I'm kind of picky about what stickers I put on it, but I have put a couple so far. But
yes,
I've been making some modifications to it. I feel like that's what Jeep ownership is all about. Like
it is.
He wants to mod it out and change it. And that's kind of what's fun about it. I feel like it's easy to do. So
it is. There's a huge community of Jeep owners that really embrace customizing it, making it your own, and really putting your own mark on it. So that'll be a fun project.
Yeah, I agree. And that's something definitely that I'll share on my Instagram page, because it's kind of all about just like my lifestyle basically, and kind of just like who I am as a person. So it's something that I'll probably share on my Instagram moving forward, like, changing the grill and putting on little appliques. And I just think that's fun. Like, it's fun to share interesting things like that, because who knows who's watching that might want to do the same thing, but they don't know how, or they just need a little inspiration. So
Absolutely. Well, there's a huge community of Jeep owners, especially women, that you can plug into and be part of if you're not already. Well, it's been so fun talking to you about your life and your plate stories. So I always like to turn the tables before we wrap up. Is there one question that you have for me?
I do. I want to know that if you were a tree, what kind would you be and why?
Oh my goodness, a tree.
I don't
Let's
know, or
see.
any plant in nature.
No, we'll just stay with the tree. That's a good one. I just, when I get these questions, I'm not ready for them. So I have to think. So there was a tree when I was growing up. I moved around a lot. And so having so many different homes, there's always like one thing that stands out from a place that had a lot of memories. Good memories, bad memories, hooks into my mind that just kind of stuck with me. And I lived in a house when I was a kid in Louisiana in Baton Rouge. And we had this weeping willow in the front yard, like on this mound. I guess it would be like a landscape installation sort of a thing. And that tree always struck me as beautiful, peaceful. The strands of leaves would just go with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the thing I will always saw, like out the window and coming to the house and leaving the house. So it was very steadfast and strong and, really rooted in stability. And that was the year my parents got divorced. So stability was definitely a little rocky at the time. Now, on the other hand, it was also the tree under which I stepped in a red anthill in bare feet. And so there was this the ants crawling up, biting my legs, my mother rushing me into the bathroom to wash them off, the pain that went with that. So not perfect, but real and strong, but waving in life as it comes. And so the symbolism of all of those things together kind of echo my own life. And, that it's not perfect, but it's good. And going with the flow makes me feel more peaceful, but having a strong, stable foundation to work from makes me feel safe and able to go outside my comfort zone. So that's my answer. It's a good
awesome.
question.
I love that. Yeah. It's cool because, weeping willows, I never really had thought about it that way, but they're a tree. So they have really strong, stable foundation, but they do have a little bit more, femininity and, flowingness. And so I really like that.
Yeah, thanks for asking that question. I don't know that I would have known the answer until you asked it. So that was fun to contemplate for myself.
Definitely. I like it.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to put your Instagram accounts. You have 2 of them. I'm going to put them in the show notes. And so that people can follow you. You have a lot of great stuff, especially on your page with the makeup and the fashion, some great advice and looks and products that you love. So we'll make sure people have a way to connect with you. And I want to thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, thank you so much. I had a really good time.
Good. Me too. Me too. So have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of Trista's Plate Story Podcast. Please subscribe to Trista's Plate Story Podcast to get the story behind all those vanity plates driving with you on the road. And if you would like to nominate the owner of a license plate, including you, or visit any of our partners and sponsors, come and see us at PL8TORY.com. That's PL8TORY.com and give us the details. If you enjoyed this episode, please drop a review and give us a share. I'm Trista Polo, wishing you well on the road to your next adventure.